All right. This is systemic context. I would say this is something that kind of, you know, is completely missing from many discussions. I don't know how can a person analyze any requirement without understanding with the various peripheral systems. These are various systems that typically, this is written from Siebel perspective. Siebel is used for marketing, sales and service. Okay, agreed. But it is pretty much gives you the context, there are various other systems that any system has to talk to. Finance system is always available, is always present in any kind of company. Billing, order fulfillment is always present. When we talk about Amazon.com system and all that, order fulfillment comes into picture. Accounting, data warehouse, some kind of websites are there. UCM, what kind of MDM or UCM implementation systems are those? Master data management systems. So I talk about all these systems in brief, not in detail. They will be kind of a part of wherever you go there. These systems will be around your system that you'll be working on, that you'll be kind of working on developing, on creating, deploying. So all these things, they kind of hit your system functionality. Some of those system functionalities will not work. If your system is not talking to the payment gateway, then there will be no way your system can process the payments. If your system is not talking to the order fulfillment or warehouse, then there is no way it can do the order fulfillment. If your system is not talking to the inventory system, there is no way it can reduce the inventory every time it is sold, right? All these things is what I talk in one of the other videos, which is all about systems. Now, very importantly, I talk about concepts like real-time, batch, connectivity, sending the data, data feed, receiving confirmation, middleware. These are some of the things which kind of start to give you variations in the system architecture. For example, let's say there is a middleware is a system which is connected to all 100 systems. That's the name suggests, middleware. So Siebel or your claim management system just has to talk to it, and it can really send the data to any of the systems. So many of these companies deploy middlewares. They have many of these companies, all companies nowadays have some kind of a middleware which is connected to multiple systems, and then any system, new system, it doesn't have to connect to all those systems. It can just connect to that middleware. We call it point-to-point integration versus star or spoke integration. Point-to-point means Siebel has to directly talk to payment gateway, whereas Siebel has to just talk to star. Just has to become one of the spokes of the Excel, the middleware, and then it can talk to anybody. It can send data to anybody. This is where the middleware. You will hear multiple technologies, Informatica, Vitria, web methods. They all fit in here somewhere. You must have heard of like Documentum. There was a guy we met, the Qt, all these are for this purpose. They're kind of for one particular thing. For example, SAP Finance, it's for finance department. You might have heard of Informatica, it's for data warehouse. Ab initio, it's for data warehouse. I've seen multiple people who took full ab initio training, they never knew what it is used for. Yeah. Pricing, there are pricing systems. There are BIs like business objects is a reporting tool, business intelligence tool. So this is BIs in business intelligence, just an articulate way of saying reports. Okay, but business objects is basically used for that. So if you hear all this technology, they say, oh, they are using business object, you should know what they're talking about. In interviews, it will hit you really badly. That's what it is all about, right? It will hit you really badly. When you're doing the job, first of all, as I said, again, there will be one current system architecture that you have to understand once. You call me once, I will tell you in 2 hours, you're done. This is your reporting system. All the data has to go to reporting system. Otherwise, how the report will work, right? All that is common sense. All that we talk in the systems context. Whenever you're understanding some new functionality, you must understand it in the context of systems as well. This is very interesting. Auto-generated field. How? Well, sometimes they create the system like there could be multiple CRMs in a sales system in a company. Employees use some, customers use some. And iPhone also has now, say, so you can book out Southwest tickets on iPhone also, right? Android based also. So it's not just one system that we are having. They could be having 25 different systems. Now they are all booking tickets and generating booking number. Because they are all doing the thing independently, there is a chance that they might give the same booking number to one guy. So the number generation system has to be separate from the booking systems. And there has to be a real-time feed when the customer puts all this data and says, okay, place the order. There has to be a real-time feed which goes to the number generation system and bring the new number and put it in its record, as well as put it on the website and all that paraphernalia. You see my point? How can you understand order generation of the fields without understanding systems? I don't know. I really don't know, Brian. I really don't know. How? So we can't possibly understand all different kinds of system architectures, but different system architectures, but we can understand different kinds. For example, middleware is one kind. SOA based architecture, client server, server talks to different other servers. All these are different architectures. Okay. Again, we really still don't need to understand all these things. 3 or 4 are mainframe is one. Typically, when you go to a project, there would be an already mainframe based system which you are sunsetting or eradicating and bringing some system in. Typically, this is a scenario. Even today, yes, even today, 80% of the systems in the world are mainframe based. That is why IBM is the richest company in the world. You hear about Microsoft, Oracle, all these things. You hear about IBM too, luckily. But guys, remember, because they make laptops, that's why you heard about them. Laptop is just very little part of their business. These guys, IBM guys, these guys created business systems about 50-60 years back in COBOL and all that stuff. They never sold COBOL to them. They gave them, they said, use our COBOL programming language, and they lease the programming language so that and create your system. The system is yours, but because you leased this thing, leased means on rent, you took it on rent. The programming language, the Word is on rent. Microsoft Word is on rent. Everything is on rent. They are making a lot of money just sitting there, doing nothing. Well, they do a lot. That is the richest company in the world. Where did the money come from? From the legacy systems. The systems which have been used are bread and butter of all these airlines, all these AT&T, all these companies. They still have to use those mainframe because they can't let all those go immediately, right, in one day. 80%, 70% of still the world's code is in COBOL. COBOL is the most used programming language in the world. You've heard of C, C++, all these things. People who come from computer science background, they get surprised. That is a fact. But they're going out very fast. They're leaving the horizon really fast. From the entire landscape of a systems architecture perspective, CIO is looking at them. His whole goal is to remove this mainframe somehow, because that's where all his cash is going. He's leased everything 50 years back. He has got everything on rent. You see my point? So anyway, this again, remember, we discuss these things again and again. These things are IT strategies and everything. How it will hit you is very important. You will just be looking at a process. Every day you'll be thinking, this mainframe has this process. I need to eradicate this mainframe and make sure Siebel or some claim management or facets or something does this work. That's it. And you'll be looking at, still you'll realize out of 100 things that you think you can get done in systemic fashion, 70% will still be done by mainframe. For example, all the pricing rules are written there. Nobody knows in the companies. This is typical scenario in any company. Nobody knows what the pricing rules is. They said that let's say claim comes in. So the claim is processed, right? So there are hundreds of rules which basically help them process the claim, automatic processing of the claims. It will just not work. Whatever you put, the mainframe will not go, because mainframe has all those rules. Who knows all those rules is also a very big deal. They made the system like that. Nobody can really reverse engineer the code. It's impossible to do. Okay. Yeah. So these systems, I will not talk about these in detail. I will talk about various architectures. Okay. We just talked about this briefly. We just talked about this thing briefly. Any business requirement that you get, you do a multi-pronged analysis. You can create your own boxes depending upon your project. These are the minimum analysis that she's not talking to me. She's probably not able to understand, I think. I'm totally respect this. That's fine. These 8 boxes is not your really everyday thing. Maybe 8 out of 8 you might be 3, or maybe out of these 8 you might be creating more. I'm just giving this to you as a starting point. Okay, remember that part. Many of my students have said that this comes handy. It helps them making sure that they're doing a complete job of analysis. Okay, we'll talk about these, compliance or legal. Many things Medicare related future releases of the system, LOE analysis. We'll talk about these in detail. What is LOE analysis, level of effort analysis? So that is very important. You're getting a business requirement, whether we can do it or not is all very important analysis that you'll do. Level of effort, how much money will be, how much effort will be needed, and eventually how much money will be needed to get this thing done. So you will do that analysis as a BA. Trust me, when my students start this journey, they realize, or many of my people from technical background, they think everything is done by a developer. What does a BA do? He does nothing. But after they complete the journey, they say, what does a developer do? He does nothing. Everything is done by BA. What does a tester do? He does nothing. He's just testing what he already envisioned and analyzed and everything. Then what does a developer do? He does nothing. He's just coding. Then who did all this analysis? Where should the generation field will come? What the values will be? Who did all this work? Who does things all this? What should be the algorithm for generating the new number? Whether it will be numeric? Who's doing all this research? BA? Then what does a developer do? They ask like that towards the end of the course. Let's keep going. It's a very interesting journey. Whenever you are thinking in terms of a BR, you need to think whether it is a personalization option, or it's an administration, or it's a config. I'll tell you quickly what it is. In hotmail.com, when you go there, you can see, in gmail.com, you can see only 20 emails at a time in your inbox. Can you make it 50 or 100? Answer is no. In Hotmail, you can. So it is a personalization option to be able to, for the user to be able to see 20 or 50 or 100. He cannot see 99 or 80. Arbitrary number is not available even in Hotmail. So the point is, this is a personalization option. It's considerable effort to create a personalization option. That is, user has the power to change his GUI. Basically, in a way, he did some change in the application. So when user gets some power to do something called a personalization option, right? Like let's say, like for example, adding more memory to it. The iPhone is not available. It's not a personalization option. In all other phones, it's a personalization option. It's not there. Just our way of saying your things. You know it already, right? iPhone, you cannot add your own hard disk or anything, right? So same things. So personalization in any, this is a universal concept. It's everywhere. Every single software has this. What personalization options are available to the users? Can they personalize it? Actually, the name is also kind of very intuitive. How much can they personalize this thing? You need to always think in terms of what personalization options to give. These can be very costly for the developer. See, he has to make 3 GUIs, one for 20, one for 50, one for 100, and then give the user one drop down where he will choose, and then this thing will show. Very costly, very costly. 3 times effort, right? Right? Tester has to do 2-3 times testing. Too much effort. Don't promise personalization options if they are not already present in the package. Okay, I'll talk about it. There are 2-3 kind of situations. Sometimes it's a homegrown system, that is everything is made from scratch. Sometimes you take some kind of a ready-made system, completely ready-made system, and use it. Sometimes there's in the middle, you take a ready-made system and you kind of change it a little bit. Siebel is like that. Completely ready-made is Clarity. Completely not ready is .NET, Java. When someone says I'm a .NET program, that means they typically make systems from scratch, brick by brick. Ready-made is completely ready-made is ready-made house by builder. Then somewhere in the middle is, you get like those mobile homes are completely ready-made, and those builders, they kind of give you various options. They bring the bigger boxes and they kind of put it together. But it's a little bit more than that. It's kind of really ready-made too. Just 5-10% tweaking is required. So personalization options is extremely important. It will not hit you very soon in your career. First of all, it will not hit you in your job. It will not hit you in your career very soon. You do this analysis at the time of selection of the package, whether we should use .NET, Java, or whether we should buy something out of the box from the off-the-shelf software. So if you go for off-the-shelf, you have to do all this analysis. But still, I'm telling you this thing because I think it is really important when you go to the project and they're using some software, you should quickly have an eye for personalization options and other things that are coming, administration options, business and IT. So there are, like, let's say an Amazon.com. Let's say they want to sell a new product. It's a purifier, $20. Do you think developer will add it there, or some business person will add it there and put the price it's for $20? So without someone adding it in the database somewhere, it will not show in the GUI. Customers will not be able to buy it, period. Right? So we need something. Okay, so that is business administration. Okay, business person will do it. They are a little bit more IT savvy. They're a little bit smart in systems. They're not just people who are just booking orders. They know that, like for example, in Southwest.com, if a new flight is started, someone has to put it there. That we have started a new flight from Texas to Minneapolis. These are going to be the timings. These are going to be the prices. These are going to be the this. They're a little bit IT savvy, not little bit, quite a lot IT savvy. And they know that if they put something wrong, customers will book wrong tickets. Right? All that is dependent. The system performance is dependent on this data. But this data definitely is not entered by developer. It is entered by the business person. He can change the price also. They change the price too, right? Right? So very recently, many of the things in the IT, so like business administration, like pricing, setting up the prices and everything so that the system functions properly and books the tickets in the right manner. IT is like some of the things in like have to be done by IT people. They cannot be given to business people. For example, let's say currencies are set up. Currencies are set up once. Let's say 3 currencies, they'll just set it up once. For example, access privileges. Who will see what? Typically, this is controlled by IT people. They don't give it to business, because let's say they change something by mistake. Well, they can do it in the case of pricing also, but they will still, it's their data. They have to set up 500,000 prices. Amazon.com people, they are good at doing this thing. That's what their job is, right? But like let's say again, so in this example in IT, yeah, they will not give the access privileges to like set up the access privileges yourself. Who can do what, who can see what. They can really goof up a lot, right? So many of these things are done, but they are done from, the point is personalization. If you see, have you ever heard of compilation of C code or C++ code? Personalization means without any compilation, without any development, new development, without any SDLC, he can get something. Really? Right? That's what it means, right? He can just get it on the go. Immediately he wants to see 50, he can do it, right? Similarly, administration and IT and business, they don't require any compilation. Many of these powers to grant the access privileges are present in the system itself. System can, like in Facebook, you don't have to redevelop the Facebook to be able to grant the access to someone, right? It's all common sense. I'm just saying it in a different way. That's it. So compilation of code is not needed. Configuration means for these kind of changes, compilation is needed. Simply speaking, compilation is needed. And you know, in software world in this country, nothing will be happening without a proper SDLC. So configuration changes means new SDLC, 1 more BA, 2 more developers, 2 more testers, everything will be taken care of. Only then they will generate anything, they will put anything new in the code. So configuration starts to become a challenge for a BA. When he sees it's a configuration change, he has to never promise this thing just like that. Administration can be promised easily, because we know that just behind the scene we have to do two, three things. We don't have to do any compilation, just basic analysis, and we can do it. Making sense? Configuration starts to become challenging. Customization and heavy customization, these are just my way of looking at the things. They simply just mean that heavy customization is needed, or it's in every package there is a way to know basically how much changes are needed, whether you require some real-time integrations, whether you have some data dependencies. It will not hit you. It will not hit you as a healthcare BA at all. It will hit you in the sense that it will hit you after 2 months or 1 month when you will be already very well settled in your project. So don't worry about it too much. Okay, but this C++, I call it C++ or Java or .NET. Actually, this pre-packaged softwares, they're also made in something. If some fix is needed at the C++ or Java level, this this is only applicable to free packaged software. So like Siebel or like Facets. Then we have to only contact the company and get it done. We can't do it ourselves at all. In Siebel, for example, okay? I think the takeaway for you guys is personalization, administration, and configuration. These 3 differences you should always know. Now, this is interesting perspective again. This is very interesting context. Different kinds of data. No analysis can be done without data. For example, transaction data, master data, and lookup data. There is one, okay, I agree no analysis can be done, but at the same I would say it can wait. Multiple concepts are not dependent on this context, but basically I'm talking about different kinds of data in a project, in any kind of an application. For example, in Facebook, your news feed, you know how people are just entering. That is transactional data. Your own user profile is there, right? So there is a set of user profiles. It keeps growing too, but doesn't grow as much as the newsfeed is. We call it master data. Let's talk about a transactional system. Facebook is not a transactional system. Facebook is not for transactions. It's for something else. It's for social networking. Amazon.com is a perfect system. The orders that you're entering are the transactional data. Your credit card information that is stores, your profile, Amazon.com, they are master data. Think about this prices of the products. They are also master list. Right? You've heard of this word, master list of prices, where is the price? That's exactly what I'm talking about here. So master data is that data. That data is inherently different from the transactional data. Transactional data typically is entered by sales reps and service reps and customers themselves, whereas master data is typically done by business administrators. Then comes some other very important things. Umbrella entity, lookup data, application admin data or reference data, and then roll-up data. A BA any transactional data has to be tied to these things to be able to do certain other functions in the system. For example, roll-up data is very much important. Roll-up data means, let's say we want to get a report from what date to what date, how many claims came. This report can be easily generated by looking at all the claims and looking at the date and just doing a sum. But that's not how the systems will do, because that will take forever for someone to know how many claims came in 1 month, last month, 1 year, because there are lakhs of millions of claims, right? So every time totaling will be very difficult. So what they do is they create roll-ups, like January 2013, February 2013, March 2013. They create roll-up 1st January to 31st. So then they maintain this thing. Then the roll-up occurs and gets stored there. The total of all the claims gets stored there. Number of, let's say the user says my requirement is I should be able to find out the number of claims and the total of money given for the claims. Users have to give a good job in what they want, because once you will create the system and you will go, then they can't do anything, right? So, but let's say they say these are the 2 things they need. What you will do is you will create a system which will do everyday totaling and keep the January total will change. Once it is done, January is over, January total remain the same. Then we'll just keep the totals there, right? So January 2013, total number of claims, this is the total amount of claims. This is what they needed. They will sum it up and then keep it there. So this January and all these things, periods, is what is used for rolling up the data too. So this data also has to be maintained. For example, they say we want monthly data, we want weekly, we want quarterly. Then you have to maintain these roll-ups, right? So this roll-up data is a very interesting concept. In your system, there will be a lot of roll-up data. Application admin data, we talked about it, that some of the IT like access privileges and all that stuff. Currencies have to be entered. Lookup data. Lookup data is, let's say you want a functionality that when users enter the zip code, the city and state should automatically populate, right? So you have to have a lookup table. It makes perfect sense. We have to have a lookup table. The system will look in there and enter the zip code entered by the zip code, and let's say user enters the zip code, system will catch it, put it in the lookup table, find out what is the corresponding city and state and put it in the GUI, right? That's your lookup data. The zip code table is a master table that is maintained behind the scenes, right? The work that the system can do is as good as in the lookup table. Let's say there is a zip code and city state combination wrong there, system will function wrongly in the GUI, right? Umbrella entity. That's okay. It's like roll-up data, but typically these roll-ups are for business purposes. That's fine. There is a discussion on this in detail. I just want to make sure you understand this context a little bit. This is another very important context which will help you take you through this entire journey. Whenever you hear something from me, you should think about once whether this is some package Siebel keyword, or whether this is a general software keyword, whether it's a business industry keyword, whether it is an English word that I'm using. So for example, auto generated is an actual field word used in the business in the general software. It is a generic word. So you should hear these things. Sometimes be aware of red ones, my keyword. Sometimes I coin new words just to make my points. For processize it. Now that is no word. It's not even English. But I created this. For example, when I say you hear the business keywords, business things and all concepts and all that, processize it. So that when I'm saying processize it, I'm pretty much saying It's my word actually. Don't use it again. Just understand it and trash it. So that's it. This is where I was saying, answer that ask questions, bring your doubts. Please do not worry about that others might judge you. Nobody's gonna judge you. After 1 month, you guys will all be working in a different job. Nobody's gonna look at you may not remember each other. You may not like my response, but sometimes I'm very in energy mode. I might say just stop, do pause something. Don't mind, keep speaking. I'm not trying to scare you. I want you to ask questions. Period. I want you to ask questions. If you don't ask me here, then one day you will ask me from the project. And if you ask me from the project and don't get the answer, then you'll be again sitting here and asking me the same question. So it's better to answer it today. So I always make it a point. My students feel very comfortable in asking questions. I get every kind of student. I get students who don't have any IT background, to people who don't have any business background also. I try to do a good job in selecting the right candidates nowadays, but please ask questions, even if you think you're not the person. Whenever you are giving any example, you should always make sure you are telling me exactly which organism. For example, I tell you even in every example, you should also catch it. It's a system used by Southwest for customer service, and Southwest service representative is the employee in this context, and he's the one who's using the system. Sometimes people can get confused. I want to make sure then who they are talking to, like the customers, then what product are they selling, like what are they selling or something, what is being talked about here. Then the process should be clear. So whenever you're giving the example to me, you should mention very clearly. So let's say, for example, Blue Shield of California is doing this thing, and they are processing the claims. And then let's say the provider, like the employee, gets this thing from the doctor. Then he uses this thing to process the claim. So this context is really important in becoming clear with all the ideas you hear in the class. This is another context. Fresh implement. There are multiple kinds of projects you will be going to. Typically, they fall in 3 or 4 categories. Fresh implementation projects. They don't have anything. They just were doing the work in the caveman style. They were using Excels or something to maintain all their data. That is caveman style, really, in this context, in an IT company context, in any company. These guys can't work with Excels and all. They are using some sophisticated systems. Excel is for 200 hours. They are ready to spend $20 million tomorrow, right? So $200 solution is definitely caveman or very antique kind of thing. So they'll say, okay, we'll just get a full thing done. Fresh implementation done. We just get a full thing, prepare a new system for it. This is a fresh implementation. If you get into a fresh implementation project, the challenges are going to be a little bit more because there is no context already available. Sometimes it will be an enhancement project. If there is an enhancements project, that means there is already a system in place. They are using it. They want to add certain features. The SDLC is for those features, but you can understand those a little better because you can see the current system. Upgrade project. They are already using a system. They want to upgrade it. Now this is a little tricky here because upgrading of Word takes just put the CD and it will get upgraded, right? Upgrading of many things is very easy, but upgrading of these IT systems is not as easy because there are so many different kinds of data in this. The data model is different. The databases are different. Things can change drastically, and there should be a reason why they are upgrading, right? So that reason kind of usually dictates that they better do a proper job. It is typically a proper SDLC, full 1-year project, start to finish, just doing the upgrade, doing nothing. And they can be really good projects for you guys. New customer, for example, payer onboarding. We talk about it. Let's say, company like, let's say, so the way it works is providers, they send the providers with doctors and all, they send the claims to claims like when the patient comes there, he doesn't pay. Insurance company pays. So we call it a claim. The doctor sends a claim to the insurance company. So there are thousands of insurance companies. The patient could be from anywhere, right? So what happens is there are brokers in between typically who have to tie up with all 1,000 insurance companies, and they tie up with the doctor saying that if you want to get any claim, send it to us, and just tell us which company it is, we'll send it to them. Like that it works. So if you could be working for these middle people or clearinghouses or brokers, what they do is when a new insurance company signs up with them, they have it's a full project again, 1-year project, to make sure that the payer is set up properly. The insurance company or payer is set up properly in their system so that the claims can be routed to them properly. This whole setup seems kind of easy, seems like a business setup kind of thing, business administration kind of work, but it is not. It can be considerable effort on the part of developer also. So that's why they conceive a full SDLC, full software development life cycle, and they hire multiple BAs and they hire multiple developers and testers and make sure everything goes on smoothly. You could be part of one such project too. Apart from this, there could be many other kind of projects. Okay, we need to clearly understand the scope, the high level scope of the project when we come in. As I said, when you go to the project, understand what the process is, what the system architecture is, and that will pretty much do the job. Third one, if you can understand the scope, what we are trying to change here. If you can understand that, that's good. So let's call it future process. If you understand the future process, the current process, and the system architecture, you are pretty much on top of the project. You know everything about it. These are different kinds of architectures. We're going to talk about that in detail. Client, server, and database. Client interacts. We talked about it as part of it. Client interacts with server. Server interacts with database. We know that. We have seen it as part of our this thing. Many observations. The thing client, we also call it as GUI. Then there is a business logic layer. Then there is a database layer. GUI's only presentation of data is there in user-friendly format. GUI is nothing but just a presentation. We know that data doesn't lie there. Like Hotmail page doesn't have the data. It's lying at the server. It's actually lying at the database. All programming logic and access rights are processed at the business logic layer level. Joining the data, everything occurs at the business logic layer level. So joining the data is all related to the RDBMS context when we do data work. Like data comes from different tables and gets joined and gets shown in the GUI. Tables and everything are lying in database. Many people don't know all these things. I just talked about it once. These will not hit you too much. Your job will be to really understand this part, GUI. You'll be developing the features and functionalities which will work in GUI, and you can, in 80% of the projects, you'll be only talking from GUI perspective. That these are the features we need in GUI. How they get done will be developer's responsibility. You will just check whether it is possible during that analysis, but still you should know what's going on behind the scenes a little bit. We talked about this. This is pretty much your cue, your guide to understand any new thing. These are some of the things that you should also know. Bookshelf, IT Toolbox. There's so many. You might know only a few, like Google. There are usually support webs of every kind of. Give me 1 second. Of every kind of industry. There is wiki articles. There are wiki articles. You should be ready to go over those. You should definitely look at. Let's say you're gonna make a claim management system. There could be another claim management system which is made out of the box by some company. Just look at them. That will make you understand what kind of capabilities are needed. For example, I did a project in marketing for one product called Siebel Marketing. I went and signed up for MailChimp and I understood all the functionality that I needed. Potentially 80% was common. Functionality is common. Once I understood the functionality, the process, I knew everything. Remember process? There was a process. You first create a contact, make it a part of a list, add the list to the email, send the email to the list, right? That's what the marketing process is. All that was there in MailChimp. Make sure you have friends in the field, right? Many people burn the bridges. First they go there, they want to just shine and they want to say nice thing. They want to just, I don't know why they would feel that they can shine. They are in a fresh new IT project. They've never been in an IT project. So make sure you strike friendship. GS, call me. You see I'm at the bottom for a reason. Do your research, please. It's very important. You guys are new here. You might think the first thing you should do is call Gaurav. Really, that will be the lengthiest method. Easiest is just Googling, check the manuals already there. IT Toolbox, there is IT Toolbox, there's a forum. You check all this, you'll get the quicker answer and more precise and better answer. Okay? Do call me though if you have any issues. Yeah. What I'm really trying to say is there are so many things that you should really get. You're going to work in IT field. Get IT savvy, become IT savvy, know how to install Word, what kind of issues come, what is a plugin, what is an add-on, what is going on. One guy called, said my VPN is not working, virtual private network, to get into the company's network. I can't do anything. I don't even know what their VPN is. It is their tool. I don't know anything about it. You see my point? There are many things. So you should get really, hand smart in Googling and finding things, right? There's another contest where I talk about different kind of tools which come into your life when you go to a IT project. Quality Center, Bugzilla, Jira, they are tools to make your life easy. They are very intuitive. They're like a car. If you say I've driven a Toyota all my life, I can't drive a Honda now, then you're making a big mistake. That's the kind of thing I'll just talk about it. This thing, development environment, testing environment, this is some people don't know that there are different environments in a company. For example, SDLC, for development they will use a development environment. For testing they'll use test environment. So remember our context that in an SDLC there are like during March, April, May, requirement gathering is going on, June, July, August, development is going on, August, September, October, testing is going on. They are using different environments at that time. It doesn't mean when they're doing the development, after the development is over, testers don't go to the same environment. Environment is essentially client, server, all this database, separate, everything separate. So you see my point? So they will move the code to the new environment so that they can develop something else if they need to. And then they will maintain a version control that, okay, first version was given, and if there is a bug found, they will fix it in version first. But they keep on developing. So there are some development techniques available. They can make sure whatever they gave to testers, they can just keep it in a exclusion in an island and then just work on the rest. They can do all that. So all these things can allow. So there is a development environment, then there is a test environment, there could be a UAT environment, then there is definitely a separate production environment. That's what the users use. Person, I've seen people who don't follow my, and then it becomes. I've heard it. I've done. I have learned it the hard way. I started like you when you started Real Set. Did you make mistakes? I made a lot of mistakes. I had taxi drivers who didn't know anything. Who didn't know what is a USB drive. Who didn't know what is a USB drive. What is a flash drive. They had never touched a computer. My wife, was sitting beside me. She told me 20 times, don't teach them, hire the right candidate. These are not the right candidates. Out of 10 people, 5 people are really bad. They are not good. I didn't know this thing. Without 1 hour interview, I don't take anybody now. They have to imagine. They can't write. I don't let them write. They have to imagine in their mind and answer from there. If you can't imagine a little bit, then there's a problem, right? Engineering background, science background is what I've always seen that works to my advantage. Why do the things the hard way? When there is a recession, you can buy a Ford project and sell it. Why do you want to do other things, right? Right? I mean, that's exactly. I learned it really a very hard way. Trust me, I trained that guy for 6 months. Kept on doing that everyday class, and then sent him to the project, and he did well. That's a feather in the cap, right? Yeah, that's a feather in the cap. We back in those days. Have you seen this movie Ratatouille? English movie, Ratatouille, animation movie. There's a mode in this: anyone can cook. You remember that? The chief chef, the best chef in the world, thinks that anyone can cook, and he's written a book around it. I used to think anyone can be a BA. I used to say that anyone can be an IT. It is a fact. But after 100 years of training versus after 100 days of training, after 100 hours of training, that remains to be said. And I'm pretty sure there are some people who can be taught in literally 4 hours. Like you and Ram, and this girl Sudha. I don't want to say not this girl, but you understand. All 3 of you, if I send you to the project, train you for 4 hours, you guys can do it. It's all common sense. I just taught you all common sense. You can easily relate to it. I didn't tell you anything new. So in the project, there is going to be nothing new. If you know Facebook, it will be something related to what you do in Facebook. Claims come and claims get processed. That's it. If you have used airlines, this thing. So that's why I asked, have you used airlines? Okay, tell me one thing. How does this thing work? According to you, how the payment works get done. Remember when I asked the payment question, real-time payment question? I'm really checking everything. If person can't answer that, I don't take him in the class. Yeah. This is interesting. This thing, interesting. But it's not a perspective per se. This is part of my training. I want to tell you that you should. This is pretty much. Okay. I'm just trying to say, how you should take notes. You should definitely make abbreviations. Relate through arrows. For example, I'm relating through arrows. Hierarchies, maintain these hierarchies. This is an example of a hierarchy. Do not write long lines. I've seen a girl taking notes. There are 4 types of business analysts in the industry. I said, what are you writing? Just write 4 types. That's it. Of BA. Don't write anything. That's it. Then write hierarchy. So that's what I'm trying to say. Do not write long lines. Learn standard abbreviation. For example, CV and develop your own. Develop your own abbreviation is very important. Thank you. It's really important to develop your own abbreviations. Okay. There is one full tutorial on this, but actually this whatever I said is kind of pretty much complete in itself too. You need to, you know these things, you have heard this thing from others. As a BA, trust me, your duty is note writer. There is a word for it, scribe. In agile methodology and in JAR session, JD session, when you're doing the workshop, there is a special role called scribe. When you go through my video of wine and the bottle, you will understand that. But still, in a meeting, to complete the discussion, there are 3 or 4 people. One is a moderator who's moderating the discussion between SMEs and various BS. And there's a big discussion going on. There is a scribe who writes the notes. There is a stakeholder who kind of sitting there making sure my money is being spent wisely. And then there are the project manager who want to make sure that scope is being maintained, and BA, a senior B is also sitting there. Technical lead is also sitting there making sure we don't promise anything which is technically infeasible. So those are big workshops. We talk about those in detail during our SDLC discussions. Okay, but yeah, so note writing is a very important thing. How you write 2 words and help, and which 2 words will help you recall the entire discussion after, the entire sentence or entire set of sentences after maybe 20 days also is the key to success as a BA. If you don't know how to write notes, you cannot really pursue a BA career. And I have checked, everybody of you has a way of articulating the things and summarizing the things. I've noticed this thing. When I ask you a question, I look at those things. When I'm in the discussion first, I'm looking at this. How do you articulate things? Can you articulate? Can you summarize the things? Can you expand the things? I see all those things. So yeah, this ability of yours, out of the box ability of yours, is what will come handy when you're writing notes. I don't think you need elaborate lessons on this. You will be fine. Yeah. This is my tutorial for data. That's fine. Yeah. So this pretty much brings us to the end of the context work. So we will go through various things and keep this context in mind. This will help us in understanding any new thing, even the existing things. When we do it in detail, we have to understand those in the context of other things. That will, otherwise we won't be able to really grab it. We won't be able to answer the interview questions pretty much.